ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? It's a Sith legend.
The Last Jedi is the worst Star Wars movie blah blah. Rian Johnson and Disney ruined everything blah blah. People always find something to bitch about. Remember back when people were bashing the prequels the same way? Video after video, blog post after blog post, all essentially describing the same issues present in George Lucas' Star Wars prequels. The overuse of CGI, bad dialogue.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough and irritating. It gets everywhere.
Plot holes, uninteresting villains, weird acting, childish moments and the like were all arguments against Episode 1, 2 and 3, with The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones generally considered really bad and Revenge of the Sith being regarded as mediocre to great, depending on who you ask. For years and years fans of the Star Wars franchise have hated on the prequel films, with only recent years starting to bring out their supporters. But let me get this straight, I love the Star Wars prequels. While the arguments I just listed are pretty valid, I don't think they are enough to destroy my love for these films. There are several reasons for this. You have to remember that every Star Wars fan has a personal connection with each film and almost every ranking of the 9 films is subjective. While I can't convince a full-on prequel hater to stop hating, I feel like I can bring out some good points about why I love the films that maybe you'll find interesting. First off, I'm going to address the CGI. Let's not pretend that it's not there, because it is, and it's a major part of the prequels. While some of the CGI is of questionable quality and a lot of it doesn't hold up to this day, I've never had that much of a problem with it. Innovations in filmmaking are always developing, and this was the case for CGI back when George Lucas was developing The Phantom Menace. I believe that if computer-generated imagery is used in a good way, it can be an incredibly helpful tool for a filmmaker. Lucas is known for pushing the boundaries when it comes to creating a film, and for him CGI was the tool that was going to help him realize his full creative vision. By testing its limits in the prequels, Lucas ensured that it would be much easier for future filmmakers to put computer graphics in their films. If we didn't have Jar Jar Binks, we probably wouldn't have gotten Davy Jones or Maz Kanata. Without the limits of practical effects, George Lucas was able to give us some of the most creative creatures, worlds, ships and characters the Star Wars saga has to offer. And that is awesome. Secondly, the story. The prequels are often criticized for their bad or incoherent storyline that is full of plot holes. And sometimes that is true. I can't deny that. But in my opinion that is because of the poor execution of George's story ideas. When you think about it, the narrative that the prequels tell is quite fascinating. We are shown that one man, with his power and force and ability for manipulation, is able to rise to power and overtake a republic that has stood for 1,000 years. Along the way he destroys the people who have helped him, betrays everyone, and is able to bring the supposed chosen one to the dark side. We are shown that the Jedi, these legendary beings that we've rarely seen in the originals, are prone to failure and misjudgment. We are shown 2 different factions fighting against each other, without anyone knowing that they're both controlled by the same person. This sounds awesome, right? What about the Star Wars ring theory, which basically shows Lucas' ability to create a cohesive narrative and parallels between the entire Star Wars saga? In addition to that, the prequel villains are also very interesting. While their motivations are much better explained in other media, they still serve the films a purpose. Think about it. Darth Maul is a Sith that is full of hatred and seeks vengeance. Count Dooku is a fallen Jedi. General Grievous is a great warrior trapped in a cyborg body. And what does Anakin Skywalker turn into in Revenge of the Sith? Darth Vader, a Sith full of hatred that is a fallen Jedi and is trapped in a robotic body. Let that sink in.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
All of these things add so much to a story that, at first glance, seems convoluted and dumb, but upon further inspection you find out that it is somewhat great. Thirdly, I want to mention the fact that the prequels expanded the Star Wars universe in a massive way. Iconic new planets such as Kashyyyk, Naboo, Geonosis, Coruscant, Mustafar really brought a variety in terms of the galaxy map. We finally got to see the Jedi Council, which was full of new creatures. New Jedi Masters like Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Kit Fisto and Mace Windu really brought diversity and spiced up the ranks of the Council. We got to see the Jedi Order in its prime. The clone troopers and droids gave us a different galactic conflict. So on and so forth. George wanted the prequels to be different and have a lot of new shit in them, and he succeeded. Also, the prequels gave us tons of new books, comics and video games. It brought us the 2 Clone Wars cartoons for fuck's sake, both of which are really awesome. One of my all-time favorite things related to Star Wars is Star Wars: The Clone Wars. God, that show was good. Of course, there are a lot of problems with the prequels. The dialogue is stupid, the characters aren't always the best, there are some really dumb stuff George added to the Star Wars mythos, things like that. But they've never stopped me from enjoying the films. I already presented you with some arguments, but probably the best one is that I grew up with them. I grew up watching them, playing Battlefront 2 and watching the Clone Wars. I love all of Star Wars, but the prequel era is the closest one to me. That'll never change. As I've stated, someone's love for Star Wars films is very subjective and personal. And that's the beauty of it. Everyone has different opinions, and that's never bad. It sparks discussion, and discussion sparks thought. I hope that I've made some good points and that I've interested you in rewatching the prequels. Because I love them for sure.